Sometimes you can design a unique look to a wall simply by adding wall or face-hosted families to it. In this movie, we will move inside the museum project where we will build a large feature wall in the main lobby. The wall is a simple basic wall, but with the use of a custom-built void family, we can make it a focal point in the space. To help you visualize what we're after here, I've got the final version of the lobby wall open on screen right now, but this is ultimately what we want to create. It looks a lot more complicated than it is. So let's switch back over to Samoka V4 and get started. Let me go on the floor plans to the main level, and I'll zoom in a little bit. And what I've provided here to get us started is just a basic wall, and there is this one opening penetrating through it. Now, the easiest way to see that is to open up this section here. So I'm going to double-click that section head to open it up. Here's the basic wall, and here's the opening cut through it. The final thing that I've added is, in a later chapter, we're going to be creating a big grand stair in this space. So I've added some detail lines directly on this view to let you know kind of what area to avoid when you're adding the void objects later to this wall. So we're not going to want the penetrations in this space right here. Let's get started. I'm going to take this wall and select it. And over here on the properties palette, I'm going to give it a height. I'm not sure exactly what height I want, so I'm going to drag it first to get close. And that's about good. That's 54.6. Let's maybe try about 58 feet and see what that gives me. So that gives me just about up to the ceiling. That looks pretty good. What you'll notice here is it's kind of doing something a little strange right there. If I go back out to the outside, what you'll see is this wall is actually punching through the exterior when it goes up that tall. The simple solution to that is to just simply notch out that part of the wall. So I'm going to go back to my floor plan, go back to my section view, and I want to just notch out this part of the wall here. So I'm going to select it, and we can use the Edit Profile feature to do this. So I choose Edit Profile, and that puts me in sketch mode, and I'll just draw a little notch over here at about 15 feet off the corner. I think we'll do the trick and pull it down maybe about 20, 21 feet, somewhere in that neighborhood over here, and just kind of do a little L shape. And then I'll use my trim tool to clean that up here and here. And then I'll finish that. And so now that kind of gives me a nice clean corner there. And if you return to your 3D view, you'll see that the wall no longer penetrates outside the building. Next, I'm going to take this opening here, and we need a similar opening on the second floor and on the admin level. And so I'm just simply going to copy that. And the second floor one's going to be about over here. And the admin floor one is going to be about over here. And I have rough dimensions for that. This one is about 26 feet off of here. This one is about 53 feet off of here. If you want, you can set those at exact locations, but this is about okay of a configuration here for now. Now I'm going to go back to the main level floor plan, and I want to select this wall and make it a little thicker. That's just simply Edit Type, Duplicate, and I'll call this Lobby Light Wall. Now I'm calling it Light Wall because all of those features you saw at the beginning when I showed you the final version are actually voids cutting into the wall, and there's a light fixture behind them to light up the whole wall and make it a lot more visually interesting. All I want to do here is keep this basically a generic wall. I just want to double its thickness. I'm going to make it about 2 feet thick, and for the material, instead of by category, I've created a material which is just sort of like stone panels, and that's called Lobby Light Wall. So you can just choose that. They're like alabaster stone. That's the wall type. Pretty simple. Let's click OK. You can see the wall thickens up. And the next thing I want to do is give myself some guidelines to use to place the void objects. So I'm going to do that with reference planes. I'm going to go to the Home tab. I'm going to select the reference plane button way over here at the right. And the first one I'm going to draw here towards the end of the wall, right about there, running parallel and perpendicular to the wall itself. Now, if I deselect that, you can see I've just got a short little reference plane right there. I'm going to use the array command right here, pick my start point, start moving in the general direction that I want to go in. And you'll notice that the group and associate feature is turned on here. The quantity is currently just set to 2, and we're moving to the second item. Let me just show you with just those settings. So I'm going to start moving in this perpendicular. Let me zoom in a little so I can get this parallel. And I'm going to go at about 5 feet and click. The number 2 will appear here. The array currently contains only 2 items. What group and associate means is you can actually change the quantity anytime and the array will update itself. So if I put in 20 here, you're going to see, if I zoom out, that I now have 20 of those reference planes. If I click it again and I say, well, what about 30? And it actually turns out that for this design, I need 31. So that's the number that I'm going to settle on. What that does for me is, when I open up the section again, is it gives me all these guidelines right over here. And now you can snap your voids to those guidelines, and even though the voids are varying sizes, they'll all be lined up on the same verticals. The nice thing about the grouped array is you can actually change the spacing after the fact as well. So I'm going to stick with the 5-foot spacing, but let me just show you quickly how you could do that. I could put a quick dimension on here, select one of these items, activate the dimension, and if I change this number, it would actually affect the entire array. Now I'm going to undo that and stick with the 5 feet, but just so you know in the future how you can control a grouped array, it's a pretty nice feature. That leaves us with the voids. I've built the family already, so we'll just go over and click the component tool on the Home tab and open up our list of choices here on the Properties palette. Scroll down. And I've got a family called Wall Void, and there are quite a few sizes. So I'll start off with one of the larger ones. Let's do maybe an 8 by 96 and bring it in. And you can kind of see that you can place this really anywhere you want to go. What you do is you sort of place it nearby these grid lines. Maybe I could place a few of them like over here and over here and over here. And then after you've done however many you want of this size, and again, avoid this area here where the stairs are, you cancel out of there, you go to the Modify tab, and you use your Align tool, and you just align from the reference plane to the center of the void. You can even lock those if you want to. The advantage of locking them is if you anticipate changing the spacing of the reference planes, like I showed you a few moments ago. So if you're not settled on the 5-foot spacing yet, and you want to try varying it around, then it would be a good idea to lock these. Align it, lock it, align it, lock it. When I did this, sometimes use dimensions to set the vertical. Sometimes I just eyeballed where I wanted them vertically. You can get as detailed with this as you want to get. So you could even add a series of reference planes running vertically. But I was more concerned with them lining up in this direction, and the horizontal spacings of where they actually ended up along that line I wasn't as concerned with. But to get the effect that I showed you at the start of the movie, it's just a matter of choosing alternate sizes and placing them somewhat randomly. Let's place a few small ones. Okay, here's a nice thin one. Let's find some short ones here. Okay, here's a nice short one. And you just have to go here, and that's the design part, and kind of make a pattern that's pleasing to you. And your end result, again, will look something like that. Using a simple void family, we can take what's otherwise a very boring and mundane wall and turn it into an interesting feature in the middle of our design.